We know that modern bullets are pretty pointy. Pointy bullets go farther and are much more accurate. But for most of the history of bullets, they were generally rounder and more portly, at least until around the 1830s. So here's the question. If pointy bullets are so obviously better, why did soldiers spend centuries firing chubby lead balls instead? To answer that, we need to go through the history of boomsticks.
This is my boomstick!
Gunpowder was invented in 9th century China by Taoist monks, ironically trying to create an elixir of life. It wasn't long before people were putting it in tubes to blast stones at their enemies. It made its way across the Silk Road to Europe, where, in spite of controversy, it was progressively adopted by armies. At first, guns were simple, smooth tubes. You pour powder down the barrel, drop in a round ball, ram it down, light the powder, and hope for the best. They were loud and terrifying, but not super accurate. During the early 1500s, German gunsmiths started adding curved grooves to the inside of their guns, and noticed something interesting. The grooving, which was supposed to make them easier to clean, also caused the guns to fire much more accurately. This was the birth of rifling. Grooved guns imparted a spin to their shots. Spinning a projectile gives it gyroscopic stability. Instead of tumbling through the air, it flies forward, dramatically increasing accuracy. By spinning in flight, the shots were far more likely to stay on target. And even though round balls benefit, pointy bullets benefit even more from spinning at high speeds. So what's the catch? If rifling existed in the 1500s, why didn't armies immediately switch to sleek, pointy bullets and start sniping each other across Europe? You might think it would be due to money constraints, because rifled guns were more expensive to produce, or maybe pointy bullets were much harder to make. While those were aspects, the real reasons boiled down to a combination of technological limitations and military doctrine of the times. For rifling to work, the projectile has to grip the grooves inside the barrel. That means it needs to fit tightly. But black powder, the main kind of propellant used during the early modern era, sticks around, literally. Every shot leaves behind burnt residue. After just a few rounds, the inside of the barrel becomes caked with fouling. With a smoothbore musket, this isn't a huge problem. The round ball is smaller than the barrel. It can be rammed down even when things get dirty. A trained soldier with a smoothbore musket could fire 3 to 4 shots per minute. But a rifled musket? Now the projectile has to fit tightly enough to engage the rifling. After a few shots, loading becomes slow, difficult, sometimes nearly impossible without cleaning. In ideal conditions, this means maybe 1 or 2 shots per minute. But under battlefield stress, even worse. And in warfare of the 1600s and 1700s, precision wasn't the priority. Armies fought in long lines, shoulder to shoulder, firing volleys at the other lines. At 50 to 100 yards, soldiers weren't really aiming at a specific individual. They were contributing to a wall of lead. Generals, therefore, preferred volume of fire over accuracy. It wasn't that people in the past didn't understand that a conical, pointy bullet would fly better. They experimented with making them work, but until the 1800s, nobody could get very far with them. The real issue was engineering constraints. A conical bullet that fits tightly enough to properly grip the rifling is hard to load, especially once fouling builds up. But if you make it loose enough to load easily, it won't engage the grooves, it won't spin properly. And without spin, it loses the very accuracy you are trying to gain. In fact, it becomes less accurate than a round shot. Too tight? You can't load it. Too loose? It doesn't work. This paradox stalled bullet evolution for centuries. Rifles existed, spin was understood, and the physics were known. But the chemistry, materials, and battlefield doctrine provided one hell of a barrier. Gunsmiths and military scientists had tinkered with pointy bullets, but weren't able to get them very far in terms of adaptation. That was until a series of events occurred in the 1830s. John Norton, a British captain serving in India, noticed something interesting about the blowguns used by local tribes. He observed the base of their darts was made from spongy wood from the center of tree trunks. When blowing into the tube, the wood expanded, giving the dart a tight seal that gripped the side and drastically increased the range. Norton used this idea to develop a cylindrical bullet with a hollow base in 1832. 4 years later, his design was improved upon by London gunsmith William Greener, who created an oval-shaped bullet, one end of which had a flat surface with a small hole drilled into it. The hole extended through most of the length of the bullet and was covered by a conical plug with a round wooden base. Upon firing, the plug would expand to prevent gases from escaping, practically the same principle as the blowgun dart. The new bullet was successfully tested in 1836 by the British Army and rejected, likely due to the higher-ups completely missing out on the potential of such an advantage. It wouldn't be until the 1840s that French engineer Claude-Étienne Minié would take the concept and bring it to the next level. His invention, the Minié ball, was slightly undersized, like a round shot, but conical in shape. But here's the genius part. It had a hollow base. When the powder was ignited, the hot gases forced the base of the bullet outward. It expanded into the rifling grooves as it was fired, and didn't require extra specialized parts or special engineering. This meant easy loading and proper spin. Boom! Pointy bullets were on the Army's menu. Suddenly, rifles could be loaded almost as quickly as muskets, but with dramatically greater range and accuracy. Once that final piece clicked into place, warfare changed overnight. Their effectiveness was shown in the Crimean War, when a small band of Scottish Highlanders held off a cavalry charge of Russian Cossacks with accuracy that spooked the commanders and forced them to call a retreat. Sadly, battlefield technologies evolved faster than the tactics used to fight them. The death tolls of wars in the second half of the 1800s, from the American Civil War to the Franco-Prussian War, and others, speak for themselves. But in case you are wondering why bullets took so long to get pointy, you've got your answer. Thanks for watching, and if you really enjoyed it, consider liking and subscribing.